Hello, Peter. What's happening? I'm gonna need you to go ahead and come in tomorrow. So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
I'm so disappointed in Cameron. $20 says he's sitting in his car debating about whether or not he should go out.
Monique, this is Ricky.
I gotta get out of here. I think I'm gonna lose it.
Rick, have you ever heard the expression, the customer is always right?
Uh-oh. Sounds like somebody's got a case of the Mundus.
First, we have French fries.
You could become a spiritual guru on your own, but you just have to tie your shoes, and you just have to know how to eat burritos backwards.
That's not our policy.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the intersection of faith, family, and filmmaking. You're listening to Fearless with Mark and Amber. Here, you'll find hope, truth, and practical encouragement to stand strong in your faith and lead your family with courage in today's culture. I'm Amber Archer, and joining me is my husband, author, director, speaker, Mark Archer.
Nothing is over! Nothing!
You can learn more about us and our media ministry by visiting fearlessfeatures.org. It's also a great place to make that one-time or monthly donation if you are passionate about reaching the lost for Christ through media. Visit fearlessfeatures.org to share your support today.
Hey, what happened?
Hey, welcome back. Hey, we are trying this again.
Trying it again.
First time didn't work out so much.
We had technical issues. This is the second time we're recording this podcast. Thank you very much.
So maybe it'll be better this time. I thought the first one was okay, but hey.
It's going to be fabulous today.
Fabulous. Because what are we talking about?
I thought we'd recycle what we talked about the first time we recorded it.
Yeah, I think so.
So,
few things to talk about first.
Yes.
So a little bit of housekeeping here.
Mm-hmm. Events.
So coming up soon, we have an Inwood Drive screening happening in Elkhart. Well, it's Bristol, Indiana, but it's First Baptist Church of Elkhart. That's on February 12th at 6 p.m. Again, that's First Baptist Church of Elkhart.
Doors open at 5:30, and that is it's February 12th because that's the anniversary of the burial of the 2,411 babies that were found in George Klopfer's garage in the trunk of his car.
And in case you're wondering how we and why we're involved with that, it's the 6-year anniversary. We were making a documentary about the demise of the local abortionist here in Fort Wayne, who happened to be George Klopfer. We went to his clinic, spoke to him and just asked him to share his story. We finished the film the first time he passed away, and then relatives found the fetal remains in his home and car. And so we went back into production to capture that story and include the burial. And so we just to honor those lives lost, and all human life matters. And so just out of dignity and respect for those who have lost their lives to the issue of abortion, we just want to recognize those who are hurt and healing.
Yeah. And Curtis Hill, who was the Attorney General of Indiana at the time, he's in the film. He was the one that had to deal with all that. He will be joining us. We'll do a little Q&A afterward. Mm-hmm. And free admission. And we hope that you can come. We're, like you said, we wanted to... Inwood Drive did not get a lot of public screenings.
No, because it came out during COVID, during 2020.
Yeah, I mean, just a handful that it's had. And so we still know that there are people who haven't seen it, and it's something to gather around.
Well, and just to give you an idea, it is on Amazon Prime. It's on Amazon. It used to be when Amazon had their Prime titles, you were allowed to have them up there, and it was released as a Prime title. So basically, if you had a subscription on Amazon, you were able to watch it. The interesting thing about that is when we released it as a Prime title, we started seeing tens of thousands of views per month. Mm-hmm. And that went on for about 3 months. I mean, we're talking upwards of 70,000 people per month were watching Inwood Drive. And they kicked us off of the subscription Prime.
Yeah.
And so now you can rent it or buy it on Amazon still. But it's just always interesting, the things that we've learned in this process of speaking speaking truth in today's culture about the issues really is much needed, but highly censored.
Yeah.
That's what I'll say.
Well, and I can't forget too when it was a prime title that the outright I'm not just talking about trolls, I'm talking about just wicked satanistic people.
Oh, very
and
nasty.
the comments that they would leave on reviews.
There's a lot of hurting people out there, and we understand. And that's the thing.
Well, these weren't hurting people, these are wicked people.
Well, yes.
Talking about how we needed to kill more babies and
They all need Jesus.
Yeah.
That's my message going forward and always has been.
children of the devil.
Okay, anyway.
So that's Inwood Drive. We would love for you to join us there that evening. We'll be there.
Friends, family, life groups, bring them small groups.
Yeah. April 9th through the 11th, we will be at the Ark Encounter.
Well, April 9th through the 11th at the Ark Encounter, the women's conference, that is sold out.
No.
The 6th through the 8th
Yeah, you're right.
is still available. That's
6th
the
through
weekday.
8th. Okay, so 6th through the 8th is still open. Do you have the page pulled up? Tell them again who else is going to be there at that conference.
I don't have it pulled up, but
Let's see. Heidi St. John will be there. Monica Klein. So this is the Answers for Women conference. Heidi St. John, Monica Klein, of course, Ken Ham, Dr. Georgia Purdom, Megan Basham,
Dr. Albert Moeller, Avery Foley, us, Megan Basham, Dr. Rosaria Butterfield, Dr. Christopher Wan, Penny Young Nance, Kristen Wagner, Shane and Shane is going to be the worship band. Michael O'Brien, who's also a singer songwriter, is going to be there, and the Logos Theater. So, yeah.
Yeah. So it's really, I mean, if you haven't been to the Ark Encounter, gosh,
amazing. Highly recommend.
It really is life-changing. It really is to stand there, to walk into it, but just as you're walking up to it and realizing this was a real thing, and just the sheer size of it, how long it must have taken them. It's really quite amazing. And the conferences that they put on, the conference center is right there at the Ark, and the conference center is first class. It's very cool. So we're honored to be part of it. We're excited to be there. So we'll be speaking they're because they sell out. So they're doing two of them back to back. So we're speaking at both. And,
we'll have a booth there. So come and see us.
Yeah. Come and hang out.
Happy to talk.
Take pictures. Also, May 1st and 2nd, Worldview Matters Conference in Green Bay, Wisconsin, with our friend David Fiorazzo.
Yeah, so exciting. If you haven't signed up for our newsletter, I'll leave a link in the show notes, but I just put that out and let people know that tickets are available. You can get those. And also, we joined David in studio in our recent trip collecting interviews with Alex Newman and David for Principalities, our next documentary project. So very cool. I'll leave links in the show notes. Anything else you want to say about that?
No, just that one's going to be fun. We're excited to be joining him again. We were just up in Appleton, Wisconsin, with him being on his show and interviewing him for Principalities. So
special thanks to Mike
Menzel. Yeah, at Freedom Project Academy, who runs the studio, first class studio. Thank you, Mike, for letting me borrow your tripod. Things happen
when you get miles and miles away.
It wasn't that I didn't have,
and there's one piece missing.
I shoot with two cameras, and I forgot one piece of my second tripod, and there's just not much you can do.
No.
Fortunately, you're in a studio, and he's got an extra one. So, thank you.
Thanks for bailing us out on that. Appreciate that.
So there's those three events, and what? This.
Oh yeah, Compromised.
Compromised. Yeah, Compromised is on Amazon in all forms.
Yes.
Paperback, hardcover,
Kindle.
Yeah. There is no audiobook yet. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
But hope that you get a chance to pick up a copy of that. Now.
So before we get started, when we first recorded this, we really sat down and I said, it's interesting what's happening over in Iran, just because of the fact of you've mostly been studying the Crusades. I've come on and started studying the Crusades along with you, but I also found, because listen, we're researchers.
Mm-hmm.
Really is what we do. We research, and then the Lord has gifted you especially to kind of put all these things together and as one cohesive story for people to see. And that's where things go hand in hand. But I interestingly, you know, we come across books all the time that we start and we're going, wow, this is wildly not the biblical worldview.
Right.
And have to usually, you can only use bits and pieces that are really pertinent to whatever you're researching. And that just happened the other day. I picked up a book I was studying through, and not at all what I thought it was going to be, and not grounded in scripture. Because what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to test everything against scripture.
Yeah.
And
it's important too when you're reading. So, I mean, especially when you're researching the kind of stuff that we do. And we have a lot of books that are written by horrible people, horrible books by horrible
Yes.
people. We have a whole section of our home library. We've got Kinsey books. We've got Dr. John Money's books. I mean,
Darwin, just
and the Communist Manifesto,
Yes.
the Humanist Manifesto.
no. I will. Let me just say, all of those books are on the very top, turned around backwards,
Right.
because it's not
It's
worth
the-
my time, really.
Yeah.
But just to have it, contrast brings clarity.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's important to understand whose words you're reading.
Mm-hmm.
And we're very cautious about that. You got to understand when you're so the stuff that when I'm reading Alice Bailey, I have to remember that I'm reading the words of a demon.
Mm-hmm.
It messes
In her own words.
Yeah, it's her transcribing
Yes.
for the demon, but yeah.
Yes. And so I had a conversation with our pastor and was asking him. I love to ask people how they study, because even listening to other pastors, I listened to one pastor and he says, how he studies is he listens to a sermon a day. And I went, oh, that's a really good idea. And so I started implementing that in my daily time with the Lord, and just finding pastors of old who have since gone on. But there are some really incredible, powerful pastors. And so that's been really fun to go and listen to, a sermon a day. I've also loved and enjoyed, I've always enjoyed hymns. I didn't grow up in the church. And so hearing hymns sung soulfully, there's nothing better than that for me. I get pumped and jazzed listening to old hymns and just connecting through music that way.
Well, and we've talked about this before, but I'll just add my 2 cents. I'm not anti-modern worship music. It's not my forte.
Yeah.
I don't sit and casually listen to modern worship music because I don't really like it that much. But I don't make a big deal of it. But I will say, the old hymns are specifically written for the church body as a choir to sing to the Lord. It's not the same as what we do today. What we do today is we take Christian top 40 hits and do a sing-along, and you can't really, we're singing along with the band who has all the instruments and the microphones, and we read the screen. It's not the same as when a church body sings the hymns together.
That's been the noticeable difference, especially because the one pastor that I've started listening to, Martin Lloyd-Jones, don't know if anybody has ever heard of him or listens to him, but at the end sometimes of his sermons, they go directly to a hymn, and it's so incredibly powerful to listen to all of the voices raised together and the sound of the pipe organ.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It lifts your spirit and your soul. It's I don't know. I appreciate it.
I remember at the church that I grew up at, it used to be we would sing hymns and we had an organ, and I remember when the organ left. And it was sad. It really was. It was justified as, well, we need the stage space, and you can do the same thing with this keyboard now.
Yeah. Well, I understand. Technology changes.
Yeah,
Things move on.
But that's not really what it was.
Again, we start getting into the personal preference side of things.
Yeah.
you know.
It was the pastor's personal preference, but anyway.
Well, either way. So anyway, we were looking at current events and what was happening over in Iran and taking down and the change of the flags. And
which is called a color revolution, by the way.
Yeah.
So if you understand in military or even marching band, right? Color guard, they're the ones with the flags that raise the colors, guard the colors. That's the flag, your nation's colors.
Right. And so anyway, back to what we were talking about. You've been studying through about
the Crusades.
The Crusades. Thanks. I was looking at the books and I'm going, yeah, Ibrahim, what? Where was I going with this?
I saw the spinning beach ball there.
I'm holding my research, looking at your research, going, is this compatible? That's what happens when we have to do it over again. I already said this once. No, so anyway, so I had asked our pastor a while ago, how he studies. And one of the first books that he recommended, and he said, Church History in Plain Language. And so I was really interested to see if there was a section that went along with what you were also reading about the Crusades and why the Crusades were. Right. And because it is really a big part of Christian history and what we're studying through, especially when we're talking about spiritual warfare and then talking about the rise of Islam. And because that's a big part of what we're really starting to see. It's not something new. Listen, there's nothing new under the sun. No. This is not something new, but we're definitely seeing it here in the West, and people need to be paying attention.
If you want to understand what's happening here right now, you have to study history. You have to understand who all these players are and understand their motivations. So, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, I didn't know. Did you want to talk about yours first and talk about the Crusades? And then
Sure.
and then the parallels that we found?
Yeah. Well, so I can sum up. Let me give you just a summary of the Crusades. And then I've got some quotes here. So this is who I've been reading. A guy by the name of Raymond Ibrahim. And maybe we can get him on the podcast sometime. I don't know. He's a very busy guy. His newest book is called Sword and Scimitar. You can see that there. Highly recommend this book. I just got through this one. No, I read, that's not his latest. His latest is this one, The Two Swords of Christ. Sword and Scimitar, Two Swords of Christ. He's written, I think, 5 books, but it's pretty much all about the Crusades and Islam.
And how did he come across all this information?
So
I think it's important for people to understand.
He used to work for the Library of Congress, and he got access to all of these original sources, and he's also Egyptian American, I think. So he speaks Arabic. He speaks several languages, and so he is a researcher, and he's worked in the research field for a while. So he just is the right guy for the job.
Yeah.
He can read these documents, and he studies the history. And so let me read a couple from Sword and Scimitar here. Well, first let me sum up. The Crusades were a response of Christendom. Okay, started in the so Muhammad, who is the founder, if you will, of Islam,
who we're going to talk about here through church history, because it's included.
So he came along in the early 600s or late 600s. So Muhammad starts this religion. It was an utter failure at first, and then he started killing people if they didn't convert, and then it became a wild success. Islam is it's Satan worship. Okay, Allah is not God. Just to clarify, Allah is what they refer to as God, but this notion in Christianity today that we call him God, they call him Allah, we all worship the same God. No, we don't. No. Allah is Satan, or at the very least a demon. And so the Crusades were a response to, in the late, the centuries following Christ's time on earth, the early church, what you got to understand is that what we today see as Muslim countries was all Christianity.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about Israel. I'm talking about Egypt. I'm talking about all of North Africa. I'm talking about, Madagascar, all these, Turkey, right? These were all, this is where, if you read the New Testament and see where these early churches were, these were all in Asia Minor, right? All of these early churches. So Christendom had spread all throughout the Middle East and North Africa, or it was spreading around the world and into Europe. And Islam comes along, and specifically they start targeting anywhere that is of any significance to Judaism or Christianity. They refer to Jews and Christians as people of the book, because we're people of the book, because we hold the Bible to be sacred. Because it's the Word of God. So the Crusades were, at first it was, there were Christians from Europe who would make pilgrimages to Jerusalem, and it would take months to go on these pilgrimages. And the Muslims, they were just thugs. They were pirates and thugs and robbers and highway robbers. And so they would capture and rob and beat up and rape and pillage the pilgrims going to Jerusalem. And this went on for a long time. And so finally a couple of guys who were of military background, one of them, his name was Hugh DePayne, they decided that they would put themselves out there to protect these pilgrims going. And they became what was known as the Knights of Christ. And their mission from the start was to protect the Christians going on their pilgrimages to Jerusalem. That's how the Knights Templar started. Mm-hmm. As word spread about what they were doing, let's be clear about this. This would be today, like having private bodyguards,
Mm-hmm.
Except they were volunteering their time because they were Christians and they saw it as their duty before the Lord to do that. So they protected them. They were doing protective detail of these caravans. And it grew because then as time went by, the church decided to start supporting them. There were wealthy barons and that started gifting them land and castles and things like that. And other people started to join. But the Knights Templar specifically, they were very strict about who could be part of the organization. And you had to take basically a vow of celibacy and a vow of poverty. And they were the original chivalrous knights. They really set the standard for that. And so let me read to you a couple of quotes here. So from Sword and Scimitar, this is from he's quoting a book called Apocalypse, which was written in the 7th century, and they're talking about the Muslims. These new invaders were God's rod to chastise Christians for falling astray, particularly if the 7th century Apocalypse is to be believed, for engaging in widespread acts of sexual immorality, including cross-dressing. So he's talking about the state of the church, the state of the Christian church when the Muslim invaders started attacking.
Mm-hmm.
See if this sounds familiar.
Well, and not only that, can we pause and back up? It says God is using them.
Yes. All right. Thus, not because he loved them, speaking of the Muslims, did the Lord God give them power to seize the land of the Christians, but because of the lawlessness of the Christians. The likes of it had never had occurred, nor may it occur in the entire generations of the earth. For why did men put on the clothes of adulterous women and prostitutes, adorn themselves as women, and openly stand in the squares and markets of towns, and change their natural practice for an unnatural one? Doesn't this sound like Romans 1? Likewise, women did the same things men had done. Father, son, and brother had intercourse with one woman who touched every kinsman. For this reason, God delivered them into the hands of the barbarians, that is, because of their sin and stench. The women will pollute themselves through the men who already are polluted, and the sons of Ishmael will cast lots for them. The sons of Ishmael. What does the Bible say about the sons of Ishmael? Ishmael, it was foretold in Genesis 16:12, quote, will be a wild donkey of a man. His hand will be against everyone, and everyone's hand against him, and he will live in hostility toward all of his brothers. So the first thing to remember about Muslims is that they are the descendants of Ishmael. They are the Ishmaelites. All throughout history, they are referred to as the Ishmaelites. They are also referred to as demons. Wild donkey beasts, just completely out of control. That's what you're starting to see now. Now go ahead and read what you've
Well, and yeah, so here in church history, let's just read about Muhammad and
read about Muhammad,
where the Quran actually comes from. And I think I'm always reminded of Ken Ham and what he says in The Mind Polluters. And he says there's only two religions. There's God's religion, and then there's man's religion. And here's where Islam comes from. So taking up the cross for Christ. The Crusades reflected the new dynamism in Western Christianity. Islam had come to birth through the visions and revelations claimed by its prophet Muhammad, who was born in AD 570. At the age of 25, he suddenly moved from being a keeper of camels to overseeing the business affairs of a wealthy widow. She was impressed by his character and, though 15 years his senior, soon married him. Although after she died, he took numerous wives, while she was still alive, she remained his only wife. At the age of 40, Muhammad began to retire into a cave for extended periods of contemplation and meditation. After one of these occasions, he told his wife that he had been visited by an angel. And if I'm not mistaken, I remember in another book or during research, it was Gabriel who he claims to visited him. Anyway, after one of these occasions, he told his wife that he had been visited by an angel who ordered him to, quote, to recite, and from that command came the Quran, which literally means, quote, to recite. At first, he was perplexed by it all, but his wife told him this could well be the call of God upon him. She became his first follower, and then a handful of family members followed suit. Many resisted his claims to be God's spokesman, and it was only after various battles, arguments, and wars that Muhammad was able to gain a vast following in Arabia. So it started in Arabia and spread from there. I mean, there's so many other Christians would defend the idea of the Crusaders or their grossest offenses. We must not overlook a simple reality. The Christians sought to counter Islam's remarkable military conquest to keep their geographic strongholds from being overrun. By the 8th century, 1/2 of all Christians lived under Islamic rule.
Yeah, and here's the thing.
Goes on.
Here's the thing that you have to remember. We talked about this before. Don't live in fear, but you need to have a healthy fear of when especially when you see leadership that thinks that you should welcome in the Muslim invaders. I think of what we've seen happening up in Minnesota right now. Islam does not come in to coexist.
No, they come in to take over.
They come in to conquer. It is a demonic religion of conquest. It is Islam. You have three options. They don't come in. We're seeing this in America. They don't come in and assimilate and become Americans. They come in and they demand that you start giving them free things.
Mhm.
They demand that you support them financially. They demand land. They demand that that their religion become the religion
Oh, you can
over
see
everything.
you can see this a lot in Texas.
Oh, in New York.
In New
Jack
York.
Hibbs just posted a
Mhm.
clip of New York. They come in and they demand that the church bells be silenced and that the daily call to prayer be blasted all over everywhere.
Mhm.
They demand that they be allowed to kneel down in the middle of traffic, stop traffic to do their prayers. Then they demand that their flags be put up.
Mhm.
This is conquest. And this is something that especially people in the American churches don't understand. We have lived in peace for so long, we haven't had to deal with this. But this is what they do. So you have three options with the Muslims. First, they come in and they demand that they be put in charge of everything. And then you can either convert to Islam, or they charge you what's called jizya, which is a tax. You're a non-Muslim, so you pay them a tax for being a non-Muslim, and they treat you like a second-class citizen. And for that tax, they agree not to kill you until they decide that they're done with you, and then they kill you anyway. So you either convert or die, or you pay them a tax, and then they kill you after they've taken everything from you. That's what Islam is.
And listen, and there are so many examples of that even now
Mm-hmm.
in today's day and age.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look around the world.
Yeah. So this is what's happening right now, and this is what you have to understand about, in particular, what we've been seeing in the news about what's happening in Minnesota. As we're recording this, more than likely, Trump will declare the Insurrection Act and send the National Guard into Minnesota. You have to, because the governor in Minnesota, Tim Walz, is just a total train wreck. We've known that for a long time. He's not going to do anything. The mayor of Minneapolis, I don't remember his name, but he's complicit in it. It's the same thing. Everywhere that we've seen, if you've watched Dysphoria, we talk about how groups like Antifa, the communists, they only pop up and get strong in strongholds where they know that they've got a compliant government,
Mm-hmm.
so they won't get in trouble. So Portland, San Antonio, right, Austin, Minneapolis, New York, L.A., Chicago, where when you see lawlessness abounding and the governing officials don't do anything about it, in fact, they fight back against law and order being brought in. And let me share a verse with you about this, O believer. Proverbs 29:4. Who wrote Proverbs? King Solomon, one of the greatest, the wisest king to ever live. Proverbs 29 verse 4 says, "By justice a king gives a country stability, but one who is greedy for bribes tears it down."
Mm-hmm.
Trump understands this. This is why he has been the law and order president. He is not going to allow lawlessness to continue.
Well, and here too, not only that, and I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Lord's will be done, and what you are seeing is the Lord's judgment.
Yeah, it is, and I have a verse for that too. Why are we seeing this? Matthew 24:12. Jesus himself said, he's talking about in the last days, he said, "Because of the increase of wickedness, the love of most will grow cold."
Mm-hmm.
Why? So why is the love of most growing cold? Because of the increase of wickedness, which is what we're seeing.
And we see it throughout history.
Mm-hmm.
It's a repeating cycle.
Yeah. Well, let me read you another quote here from Sword and Scimitar. He's talking about Constantinople and the Roman Empire, which was faltering. Right. Constantinople is in Turkey. Emperor Constantine moved the capital of Rome from Rome to Constantinople. During this whole time, Constantinople showed little interest in what was happening along its eastern borders. Does this sound familiar? Could say southern borders.
Mm-hmm.
The indifferent and squanderous lifestyle of Empress Zoe was the beginning of the utter decline in our national affairs and the cause of our subsequent humiliation. Neither Constantine IX nor his advisors gave any evidence that they appreciated at the time the danger of the Seljuk raids, mounting in frequency, extent, and success during his reign. You could say this about Biden, Obama, George Bush, right? They gave little concern to what was happening, the raids, the frequent incursions into our country. This is why we have these problems now. Saying he was unable to control these pre-modern lone wolves, even as they continued raiding deeper and deeper into Western Anatolia. Quote, the legacy of the civilian bureaucrats and of the emperors who were their nominees and puppets, profligate spenders on their own ostentations and miserly providers for their armies, was a defenseless Asia Minor. Turks raided at will and even further to the west. It's interesting to note, before we go, we should continue talking about this, that Martin Luther, and one of the reasons why the Crusades in particular have been so ignored and kind of downplayed by
Sometimes condemned.
and condemned, really, by the Protestant churches, evangelical churches in America, is because it was seen as a Catholic thing. And while the Catholic Church, the Holy Roman Catholic Church, had a lot of power and was really part of the governing authority of the Roman Empire for a long time, and yes, it was blessed and financially supported by the Catholic Church. That's true. Martin Luther kind of he propagated this theory. I don't know if it could say he led the charge, but he condemned the Crusades largely because it was the Catholic Church. So there was kind of guilt by association. And Martin Luther even at first said, well, Europe deserves it, what was happening. Now, I think that's wrong. I think to observe that when you see this happening to a nation, it is the Lord's judgment. I think that's correct. And I think what you said about America is correct. We are under the Lord's judgment. And that's why you're seeing these incursions and these. We have raiders in our own country now that want to subjugate. The Islamists in places like Minneapolis, they want you dead, Christian. They want to subjugate you and then kill you. That's just the reality of it. I don't know how else to say it. Read their own words. And so we need to pray for justice. Pray that these things get handled. I don't agree with everything that's going on all the time, but I also am not there, so I don't know. I am grateful for any time I see justice happening. Mm-hmm. So, speaking of the things that we have seen happening in places like Minnesota, no, we should not be celebrating anyone losing their life. But we should be supportive of law enforcement enforcing justice. Mm-hmm. If you are here illegally, and for pastors and police and mayors to go out and say, ICE they're not a legitimate law enforcement. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. They are. Just stop it. You're supporting lawlessness, and that is not a godly thing to do. So we should be happy for negative net migration that's happening in our nation right now. But maybe next time we should talk about the The red, green, blue axis.
Oh, yes.
Maybe we'll do that. So,
Well, I want to help people understand what that even is.
so the red, green, blue axis, what you're starting to see now. So when we say red, we're talking about the communists. And in fact, as we're recording this, there was over the weekend, a church in Minneapolis, I believe, where the communist agitators stormed the church in the middle of service and disrupted because one of the pastors apparently has some affiliation with immigration and customs enforcement. And it's scary to watch. These are communists. So this is red. Green is the Muslims. So if you look at footage of, Hezbollah, ISIS, they always have green scarves on. So that's green is their color. Blue, we're talking about the globalists. Look at the UN, all right? UNESCO. So the red, green, blue axis is what's being talked about now. These three groups of world dominators that have their designs for taking over the world that are cooperating with each other right
Joining forces.
They're joining forces specifically to destroy America and destroy the Jews. Now we know that they're not going to succeed. Well, now America, they might. We don't know.
Not talked about in Scripture.
It's not talked about. My theory is what we heard the one pastor talk about. I think that when the rapture happens, America is gutted and it just falls apart. But that is the red, green, blue axis. That's what you're seeing right now. You're starting to see it on all three sides: the communists, the Islamists, and the globalists, all trying to come together. They hate each other, but they're cooperating for the moment because they all hate us.
It's an amazing time to be alive.
It really is. So,
hey, and before we go, I just want to say a shout out and thank you to everyone who is supporting this ministry. We could not do this without you. There's a lot of work to do this year, and we just appreciate every one of you. Texas, California, Wisconsin, Indiana, and around the nation. Thank you so much for your support and your prayers. We couldn't do this without you.
Legit, couldn't do it without you.
Legit. Well, that's all the time we have for today, friends. Thanks for listening through to the end, and be sure to click that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And share this with your family and friends. Until next time, march on, saints, and be filled with the Spirit.